All right, good morning and welcome to the webinar on Phishing for Trouble. I'm Sienna Roginski, Membership Director for the South Dakota Retailers Association. Today's program will feature a presentation by Tyler Rude of Infotech Solutions in Madison. Tyler graduated with a bachelor's in business administration from Dakota State University and his master's in strategic leadership from Black Hills State University. Tyler's been the business development director at Infotech Solutions since 2015. We have just a few notes before we start. The phones of all attendees are muted so that we won't hear any background noises. But if you have a question, we will have a question and answer period at the conclusion of the presentation. If you'd like to ask a question at any time, you just go to that panel on the side of your screen where it says type message here, type your question and click on send. At the conclusion of the presentation, I'll read those questions out loud and Tyler will provide some answers. Finally, this webinar will be recorded and is available on the SDRA website, and we'll turn this presentation over to Tyler.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's a nice, cool day here in Madison. I'm sure it's across the state and wherever you're watching from as well. So, as Sienna said, my name is Tyler Rude. I'm with Infotech Solutions here in Madison. We are your endorsed provider for cybersecurity and professional IT. When it comes down to cybersecurity, we have lots of different services, ranging from our Tech Watch, which is our computer maintenance, all the way to managed firewall, managed backups. But today we are really focusing on the phishing and what that really means to you as not only the organization, but maybe possibly the business owner. So we're going to go through quite a few different things. We're going to talk about some stats, kind of what they're doing, and then probably most importantly, some examples. Some firsthand examples of phishing and what it looks like. So without further ado, let's pop into things. So our first one we're going to look at is the number of breaches per social security numbers. So Equifax, we all know about that one. So that's sitting at 150 million. Again, these aren't the ones just for total breaches, maybe just names and emails. This is ones pertaining to social security numbers in particular. Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield, that's at 80 million. The U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, 26.5 million. Office of Personnel Management is 25 million. T-Mobile finally rounds it out at 15. So we're coming in at 296.5 million. Which that number in itself is astonishing. But then on the flip side, there's 325 million people that live in the United States alone. So right now, that's sitting at 91% of the United States, or the stats in general, is we are breached. Our personal information is no longer personal anymore. Just a matter of whose hands it in and what they're going to do with it, and probably most importantly, when they're going to do with it. For me as a parent, it's kind of scary because my 3 children have social security numbers. And obviously when they're going to be probably targeted when they come of age, when it comes to 18, college, school, stuff like that. So just because it's not you or your family members, it could be eventually. So the next one we're going to talk about is the per math. So these might be the name and the phone number and the email, not necessarily specific to the social security numbers at that point. So Yahoo, they did a good job of 3 billion accounts by the time that was all said and done. River City Media, which is a spamming service essentially, is coming in just shy of 400 million. MySpace, LinkedIn, and Adobe bring out the last one. The Adobe one's probably more important, and LinkedIn as well, because those are more of the business models opposed to maybe just your own personal Yahoo account. So LinkedIn's going to be targeting the business individuals, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, what that looks like. Adobe, that's going to come into your patch management to your computers as well. More than likely, if you're working with Adobe, you do have a business account of some sort. So here's a good site to jot down. We talk about breach of accounts, whether it's the River City Media or if it's the Yahoo. You can go out there. There is kind of a conglomerate of the information. Is it haveibeenpwned.com? At the top there, you can kind of see it in teal. That will check and see if your email in particular has been a part of a breach. The nice part is it's pretty simple to look through. You enter your email address in there, and 2 things are going to happen. One is going to be green, you're good to go. It has not been a part of a breach yet. Flip side is going to be red, and it's going to say, yep, this happened at this River City Media breach. This is the information that was leaked out at that point. So, and really at that point, there's not a whole lot you can do. If it's a personal email that you don't really use anymore, yes, you can burn that email to the ground. But if it's an email that you do use, you're not going to change it and switch it out. Or more importantly, if it's a business email, you're not going to switch that out either and switch your domain name. The main thing is just switch out your passwords as much as you can, and don't reuse passwords. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the presentation as well. So we are going to get into the different types of phishing and what they mean and kind of what they look like. They're going to be, different variations. Some are more harmful than others. Some want you to click on things. Some just want you to go to a different website, and some want you to put different information in. So as we go through, you can kind of see the different items here. You'll see the Dear Customer one a lot, just because that's more than likely a mass breach of information that they got. So Verizon was a good one at that point, where they just put Dear Customer in. And Verizon's not going to do that. Obviously, they have your first name, they have your last name, they have a lot more information that they're going to be a little more personal to. Brand names, you can kind of see those come across a lot of times. We're going to see like a DHL, or it's going to be a FedEx saying your package has not arrived. Click here to see the tracking. That's where that's going to come into play. It's not hard to mock up a brand name. Everyone does it. You can copy and paste. The ones before, my Yahoo ones, all I did was take a snippet. It's that easy for them. Lottery scams, you see those quite a bit. You've won this amount of money, please come here to, or please click here to accept your money. Farming, and this is a little bit different too. This isn't really, the farming one's kind of setting you up. It's trying to lead you on and make sure it's an important message of someone, the IRS, someone like that. It's going to be very authoritative on that. Smishing is a new one. It is kind of funny how they name some of these. This is the SMS, so essentially a text message. Every once in a while you will see some of those come across, not necessarily through the email, but it's going to be on your personal devices. So that's going to be just as important when you talk about bring your own device, BYOD. If your device is connecting to your business Wi-Fi, that's going to be an issue too, because it can leak through your network. So it's really important to talk about proper segmentation of your firewall. So again, we're talking today about phishing. However, there are other repercussions when it comes down to it on different devices and what your network does look like. Spear phishing, that's going to a very particular person. Typically, this person is either the CEO, CFO, or runs the money. So that's going to be, again, a very authoritative message saying, I need this money transferred over here now, typically. So that's where you'll see those. Pop-up ads, we see them everywhere. It's not hard to do. Spoofed emails. These are ones that we'll talk a little bit later. When I make an email address, the email could be as wonky as I want it, or as close to something. If we have an @wellsfargo.com, I can add another L in there, so it's WE3LS. So that's spoofing the email, but I can make whatever the front part. I can make that whatever I want. So I could say Tyler Rude or CFO at Wells Fargo. You can spoof those emails as much as you want. And now people are getting a lot better and changing some of the headers in the code where it actually has the right person's name, the right person's email. So when we talk about spoofed accounts, there is a spectrum there of sometimes they're really bad. They're very easy to notice. And sometimes we've even seen inside of some of our organizations, they're getting spoofed with the proper name and the proper email address. So something to take a look at. And then types of phishing, truthfully, they're real accounts. The email has just been simply compromised. It's not hard for someone, if they got information from somewhere else, to get the same information if they're using the same passwords as maybe their Facebook or their social media or LinkedIn or whatever it might be. If they come and check their email and it's the same username, same password, great. Now they just have access to your account and they can watch and really wait for their opportunity. During this time, they are probably watching the language between you and the other individual. Maybe it's talking about your kids, maybe it's talking about sports teams. And when that opportunity arises for a change in a bank account or a change in dollar amount and where it goes, that's where they will step in. It's not hard to right click and mark unread. It's not hard for them to forward to a different email address at that point, so it's very important. If you're working with emails and it has the multi-factor authentication, that is going to be enabled for hopefully everyone, but especially your C-class or anyone that works with money in particular. So if you're sitting there on a random weekend watching your son's wrestling match and you get a text on your phone saying, here's your extra password codes for your email, we now know that someone has your username and someone has your password. So spoofing those real email accounts and getting that information, that is something that's very, very likely. We are going to move into some of the actual examples of these. You can see this one's fairly easy. It's probably not correct because it's not even in English. This is actually one out of the chamber here in Madison. It's not during the administration of right now, but essentially the chamber director, that is correct. We talked about before spoofing those emails. This person's chamber director was correct, and then the email was correct as well. But obviously Rosie Jameson is no longer there. But yeah, it's an interesting way on how this was removed. So everyone's kind of seen this one as well before. You don't know me, but I'm in prison and I have a lot of money. We should get together and spend some of it together. That's not going to work anymore. So again, these are really old examples. We're going to start getting some better ones now. We talked about brand phishing as well. So like I mentioned before, it's not hard to copy and paste the Amazon into here. And you're going to see Dear Client for the most part. So that's going to be very generic. Again, Amazon has your information. It's not hard to do a mail merge on a name. We do that all the time inside of Excel files and Word documents. It's not hard to do that inside of an email. Up here, you'll see this is a bad example of spoofing. They weren't able to even get the Amazon. They do amazoncanada.ca. I highly doubt that Amazon has bought that domain and is using that on behalf of the organization. And then another main thing is they want you to click on something. There is an action item or a call to action every time an email is sent out. So hovering over the link, don't click it. You can hover over top of it and see where it takes you. You can see this one's going to take you to redirect at this.com. More importantly, they're always going to want you to click something. So these are some good examples of what I would call red flags inside of emails. So keep an observant eye. This is an example of trying to redo a domain. The actual company name is Unbounce, but you can see inside of here they added an R. So they could probably do this for $20 on GoDaddy. Go out there, buy the Unbounce with an R inside of it.com. It's probably not very hard to go to their website and figure out that Rick is probably the person in charge of the overall organization and Michael's in charge of the money. The spear phishing examples, again, come out very authoritative. I need this now, and typically have to do with money and wire transfers. So I'm expecting to receive instructions. Just want to make sure we're in the office. They have their attention, essentially. So that's a good example of what spear phishing does look like. Another example of spear phishing, going to a very specific person. On this, we recreated it. The person that did receive it actually had all the correct information in here. The username was correct for their Office 365 account. The email and the domain was correct. This was a bad link. We changed that out a little bit. But you can see up in the URL, again, they're not going to be notice rsos.com is something that Microsoft Office is not going to be sending out ever. So very, 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 very rarely will organizations send an email out like this. So you always talk to your service provider when something like this does come up. But again, it talks about it's an emotion when we're talking about this one in particular, because we want to notify you before deactivating your email account, which for some people, including myself, email is very important. That's where I keep a lot of different things. So that triggers that emotion of I can't lose all my emails. So they click on emotion at that point. We did see this come across not necessarily our organization, but people that we are in touch with. But as you can see in here, again, the email is not even close to be something that would be recognizable by that organization. This is a standard. Can you send me the W-2s, please? No one calls her Sandra. It's always Sandy. And then she didn't have an iPhone. So this was caught before any bad things were sent back to them or breachable information. So again, just another good example of a spear phishing. This was sent to me personally. It is a LinkedIn, so we talked about that before. Xandra at Euronet.nl was one of the main things here that I had seen on it. Click here to start your verification again. You had to revalidate your account, and then LinkedIn Ireland Limited. So you can see, as you start looking at these more and more, you can start seeing some of these telltale signs of this is for sure a phishing email coming through. This just illustrates how to hover over top of something rather than click it. So if you hover over top, that PDF, it's going to give you a really bad file name. So we know that's a redirect, and this is a not good email. Another one for QuickBooks. Again, the brand management out of these are not hard to recreate or regurgitate. This one's getting a little harder because it's just dear user, which again, if you have that information, is not going to be hard to put in there accurately. They need to reconfirm their accounts. Please click here. Again, QuickBooks is going to be a pivotal part of the organizational structure. So again, they're going to be clicking on emotion at that point as well. This one also came to me. It'd be way cooler if it was true that I received a payment of $212.32. I unfortunately don't have a PayPal account, but if I did, that would be sweet. So again, get transaction details here. There's a couple different things that could happen after. If it could bring you to a different file, or excuse me, a different URL that's not PayPal. That says, please put your PayPal information in, which would be great because they can use that straight in PayPal. Or else they can go to a Wells Fargo account, check there, an Edward Jones account, check there for password reuse. The other thing that could happen is they could embed an executable file. So as soon as you click that, that's, instead of saying get transaction details here, pretty much says, I allow you to download whatever you have attached behind this. So there's two different ways, or couple different items that could happen once you click something. It could bring you to another site to try to make you, trick you into putting your true information in, or else it just says, yep, you can download whatever you want. This was another one that came straight to me, DHL. They didn't do a very good job. They could have probably copy and pasted DHL's header in here. That wouldn't have been tough at all. But yeah, this actually did come to me this past summer. Just have to take time to read through it. Alerts at DHL.com, yeah, that could be definitely probable. So, but it's always asking for something. Please provide us with your e-signature. Please click here. So again, they're getting better. This is one of the newer ones. It qualifies as a sextortion of sorts. So this was sent to an individual that they sent it to us saying, is this real? Obviously it is not, but the verbiage is different. It's a different tactic of, we know what you did looking at naughty things. If you don't pay me, I will release it to your whole address book, right? So they talk about installing keyloggers on there. Again, this is just what we consider scareware on it, but this is the second part. So this person wants $632 for me not to send it to all of your address book. And I need it in Bitcoin. Hey, if you don't know how to buy Bitcoin, that's all right. Call me and I'll help you. Yeah, sure, why not? They're not out anything, especially if they have a phone number, which again, we'll talk about being able to regurgitate that fairly easy as well. So again, just another attack angle that these bad guys are coming in and trying to do. This is another one. Yeah, this has been another cool thing. Unfortunately, I don't have a Bank of America account. And you can see up here, the Daniel Costanza at coffee-bike.com is probably not a domain that Bank of America is going to be using. But if anyone feels the need to go ahead and give me $11,000, I'll give you the correct information. Brad Wilson gave me actually his blessing to show this. He is one of the South Dakota retailers endorsed providers when it comes to insurance. Insurancebenefits.com out of Sioux Falls. But he talked about, as soon as I got done doing a presentation, this came across. And Brenda, this was not correct, Brenda, up here, but yeah, it talks about the same things. Here's an invoice number. You need to pay it now, otherwise we're going to do something bad. We're gonna, release your information. So again, the invoices comes across fairly quickly, and fairly common on a daily basis, essentially. So you can see the different things. Brenda, Kim, these are all incorrect addresses. Also, the telephone and the fax are not correct as well. Here's another one. This actually came from another organization through the retailers that we have talked to many a times, and essentially they're just spoofing. They're trying to steal this person's name and his credibility throughout the state, and just saying, would you be able to drop down to this? Well, this is and what the link is saying, this is the copy that we're trying to talk about. But again, it's going to be more than likely an executable. So it's going to download something as soon as you click it. So again, spoofing of organizations and people in particular with the correct emails, and everything was correct on the email before. So again, you have to be vigilant when it comes down to your email and what that will allow if you do click something. Google, this was another big one. Essentially, you put your name in here and you put your password in, and what that does, this is a false site because it's bringing you to a completely different one than the Google Docs or your OneDrive account. So you have to be very careful when you're up here looking at where this is actually telling you. This is actually a full false website, but as soon as you get through it, it gives that information straight back to the bad guy, and now they will have control over your Google Docs, which is more than likely tied to your email account. Not to mention all the documentation that's inside of that portal. All right, so when the bad guys take something or there's a breach, what do they do with it? So go to the dark web essentially with it, and this is some stuff from Krebs. So Krebs on security is a great resource to follow. We do a lot of his stuff, but this is essentially a dump site. So here, these are all transactions that you can buy. So really, it's not that much different than Amazon. So I have zoomed in a little bit. So if I'm a bad guy and I want to buy information, this is what I would do. I go out here and I can really get very granular to what I want to take. So if I'm living in, maybe not Houston, but let's say I'm living in Austin, I'd probably go and buy this batch. It's Houston, it's Wells Fargo, they're all Visa cards. They're classic levels. Well, if I was around the area, I'd probably, if I was in North Carolina, that'd be great because the platinum level is probably a little more money inside of that. Debit, and it's refundable for $55. Not hard to do. $35, $40, $20. So that's what they are doing. So when there is a breach, and this one happens to be credit card information, they go out there and they dump it. So they are not holding on to that information anymore. They're divvying it up inside of an Excel file, breaking it up into smaller parts, and they're selling it to other people that are more than likely going to get caught on the back end. So this person's kind of the middleman when it comes down to it. But this is a good example of what they are doing with credit card information in particular. And you can do the same thing for social security numbers. You can do the same thing, pretty much emails. So if we want to do a mass phishing, that's what they'll do, is they'll buy maybe 10,000 emails and try to see if people can click on things. What can happen? We kind of talked about this a little bit. There are repercussions after you click something or put your information on. Obviously, ransomware is something everyone is very familiar with. I have all your information. Please send me $300 in Bitcoin if you're a large organization after they know who you are. Because a lot of times they don't know who you are. They don't care who you are until you're breached. At that point, they will take the time to go out to your organization and find what you do, how big you are, and essentially how much money you can pay. So ransomware is going to be a big one. Keyloggers, that's going to be very interesting as well too. When you install a keylogger on it, it's exactly what it sounds like. It keeps track of all the keys that you punch on your keyboard. So if I am a bad guy and I installed a keylogger on someone's site because I clicked something, and I see John.Elway, And then I love the Broncos after that. I pretty much know I have John Elway's username and John Elway's password. So it's not hard to decipher some of that information. Obviously, we talked about stolen usernames and password reuse before. That's where Password Manager really comes into play and not having the same things over and over again. Brand damage, we all talked about that a little bit, especially when you're a smaller organization or you're a physical location somewhere in a town. People will simply stop doing business with you because of the opportunity that you gave out your information. So your brand damage, which also turns into lost revenue at that point. We talked about wire transfers a little bit. People will step in at the right opportunity when there's a money exchange, and they will say, hey, 1 second, we got a last second change on the account that we're sending it to, please send it here. And next thing you know, money's gone. Viruses, everyone knows about that, just putting those Trojan viruses on. And then impersonations. A lot of people don't really think about this, but it's not hard to spoof phone calls and spoof the user IDs when it comes across your phone. There's apps out there where the first number you put in is the number that it's calling from. A good example would just be Infotex. So let's say I'm living in North Carolina and I know that I can call from Infotex number because you guys are a client of ours, and I'll say, hey, I need access to your server to look at something. Well, obviously you guys know, or all of our clientele know our procedures when we are doing stuff like that. So it's not hard to do an impersonation of not just their IT, but really anyone. Point of sale systems, firewall management, it's all available to be impersonated. Here's some quick stats. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on them, but they are very important nonetheless. We're talking about 90% of successful network breaches are caused by user error. And that could be malicious or not malicious, but nonetheless, it's the right finger that's clicking on different things. 76% say they experienced phishing attacks in 2017. I can't imagine that's not going to go any lower. Eventually, it's going to be 100% because it's a cheap way to get money. All you have to do is trick one person. The average cost of phishing attack is around $1.6 million for a mid-sized company. 95% of all attacks were successful spear phishing attacks, so they're going after one person in particular. Again, more than likely the C class or the person that has money. Phishing rates have increased across industries and organizational size. A lot of times you hear, well, no one's going to try to breach me. I live in Ramona and I just have a little coffee shop. Well, you're connected to the internet and you have money. Again, they don't care who you are. Every person has money and something to pay. Nearly 1.5 million new phishing sites are created each month. That's crazy. That's a stat that could be concerning. 1/3 of consumers said they would stop dealing with a business following a cybersecurity breach. Again, to talk about lost revenue in the past slides, that's where that's going to come into play. 97% of people around the world are unable to identify a sophisticated phishing email. Again, it's not the Nigerian prince or I am in jail and have a lot of money. We're talking about very specific targeted emails. And lastly, 92% of malware is delivered by email. So again, it's a great revenue for the bad guys. It's a great media for the bad guys. And for the most part, it remains anonymous. So it's a great opportunity for them to trick people. Unfortunately, your employees remain your organization's weakest security link. There is no doubt about that. So us as Infotech Solutions have partnered with the South Dakota Retailers Association, and we have come up with a cybersecurity awareness training that we are providing for the members in particular, and they have some discounts and some benefits to that. Ongoing cybersecurity training and education for end users is a must for businesses to stay secure. There's no doubt about it. There's always one person inside of an organization that you're not entirely trustful of what they're looking at, searching for. That comes down to where this can be very, very beneficial. So it's a very easy 5-step wizard that we take care of majority of that for you. It's a fully featured phishing simulator. And we'll see some examples here in a second. It has engaging courses on the back end. So if some person accidentally clicks the wrong thing, they will say, something will pop up saying this was a test. Please complete this. And all that stuff gets reported back to whoever the point of contact is for the organization. we'll take a look at what that dashboard looks like. Campaign management, which is great. You can really do some customizable campaigns, and we'll see some of those on the back end here. The courses on the right-hand side, you can kind of see those. It's a great opportunity to train your employees on what to look for and what not to look for, especially if they're going to be vigilant. And the first time someone clicks a bad thing, your awareness just went through the roof, which is fantastic as the business owner. This is the partner program. So your business can sign up for at least 5 emails is the minimum for an organization to receive targeted phishing emails monthly. Again, we talk about the online training videos for employees that click on a phishing email that we have sent on our behalf, followed by a questionnaire to complete that training. Again, it gets reported back on all the emails clicked, the number of people that actually put the information in, and if they actually completed that training as well. So for the baseline 5 email accounts, there's an annual fee of $300, and if you have additional emails up and beyond that 5, you're looking at $60 annually per email. $60 annually per email. So it's a great opportunity to get some cybersecurity awareness training for your employees. It can't be beat, really. And plus, with the dashboard on the back end, you can actually track a lot of that. Typically, there is a setup fee to get all this done for the organizations. But we are waiving that $1,000 value as a member of the South Dakota Retailers Association. So we want you guys to be just as aware as the people that are in charge of the money. So yeah, it's a great opportunity. Here is some of the examples. This is one of the lure emails that we would send out. The nice part is when you see the email here in parentheses, that is actually coming, it's a true email. There's tyler.root@infotech.st was just changed. If this was you, don't worry about it, but if it wasn't, you need to do this now. Again, trying to get them to click on emotions. This one's going to be a LinkedIn account. So again, their first name, their last name. We use one of our, Todd Canodal is one of our partners. So yeah, oh man, he's a president. He's the main guy. I should connect to him. I should hit accept. Yep, well, that's a breachable opportunity there as well too. So last one, a lot of people have it, Netflix account. Please update your payment details. Hey Tyler, we're having troubles with your current billing. Please put your information here now. This is one of the dashboards. So at that point, these people delivered, there was 28 of them delivered, 4 opened it, 5 clicked into it, and then 5 people had to do the training on the back end. So it talks about this. You can get very granular on who did it. So this is just, again, the first comprehensive portion. You can click in and see actually who was doing the clicking. We talked a lot about phishing today, but there's really no silver bullet on how to stop phishing. There are some things that we can do on the back end, though. You know, when you talk about email, when you have free email, typically you don't have a ton of spam filtering. So if we can have that opportunity of not even getting it to their inbox and having it segmented out into their junk, that's the best possibility. So moving from your current, let's say it's a Yahoo account or any of your ISPs, a lot of times you get a free email account if you have their internet service. They're not really spending a lot of time when it comes to spam filtering. We talked about multi-factor authentication on there too, so please, please, please enable multi-factor authentication. On the back end, if something happens, is your system patched? Malicious files can go out through your computer and explore vulnerabilities. That can be a huge problem. So that would be considered like under our Tech Watch. Antivirus is made to scan for a lot of these things as well. Policies for the organization. Do you guys have acceptable use policies of where you can be, where you can't be? The next one's web filtering. Can people get to Twitter? Can they get to Facebook? Can they get to just bad sites in general? So proper web filtering, you can do that off of a firewall as well, so we can just blacklist sites. So you know if there are bad sites or gambling sites, we can just block those so there's not even a possibility of getting to them. Proper segmentation, we kind of talked about a little bit about that earlier when it comes to bringing your own device to the network. Is it properly segmented off of your network and making sure it's not connected to the business network? Auto running on your computer. If you put a thumb drive, does it auto run? Is it executable? That's, again, our IT department should be able to reduce the likelihood of some of this stuff happening. We talked about a password manager and password reuse. We do have a password manager service that we can do. A lot of people send passwords over email, which is not a good idea. So if someone's email gets breached, they have a password in plain text. So PrivNote is something, as soon as they click it, they copy, they paste it to their local machine, into their password manager, hopefully. And at that point, it deletes that note. They're no longer able to see it anymore. So utilizing some of these things, it's very important. Again, there's no silver bullet, but there are things that you as an organization, or the services as an organization, or services at an MSP like ourselves can help with if something does get clicked. Again, employees will make mistakes. Do you have a plan when and if they do? That is the main thing. That's about the end of our presentation. So follow us, like us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. These are not malicious sites, I can guarantee you that. We do give out breachable opportunities, or excuse me, breachable times when people throughout the nation have been breached and are very specific to our area as well. For example, is the hotel breach. Marriott had a very large one. Panera Bread had a very large one involving the point of sales. So that's a lot of the information that we give out there. Plus we give tips and tricks outside of what we do for the South Dakota retailers as well too. So follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you do have any questions, this is my email. Or if you're interested in that phishing simulator or cybersecurity awareness training for your organization, we can talk about kind of what that looks like for your particular organization. So I can't see if there's any questions on the chat, but Sienna, are there any questions that came across yours?
I don't have any questions right now, I guess, and maybe you touched on this a little bit, but specifically, if I'm in my email and I know I accidentally clicked on something that I'm like, that was not right.
Right.
And it doesn't appear that my computer has done anything, obviously. It's not looking different or anything like that. What should I do? Should I contact my IT people?
Absolutely.
Or should I hope that my software will catch it on the back end?
No, I would contact your IT. There's no doubt about it. You know, a lot of the times when emails are sent out made to be clicked, especially an executable, they're not going to be like, I got you. They're going to try to be covert as long as they can. So if you have, we kind of talk about Spidey sense, you know, Spider-Man has his Spidey sense. You guys have it too. Everyone has it. So when you're talking about, I probably shouldn't have done that, there's probably some legitimacy to that. I would contact your IT. They can at least keep an eye on it, opposed to maybe it hitting as a false positive. Sometimes those just get pushed off to the side because they feel they're a false positive. But if there's something that is truly wrong there, they can really take that time and look into it and run a deep inspection.
Great.
Just out of curiosity type deal. Take precautionary items that they can do.
Okay, excellent. Well, I want to thank you, Tyler, for giving us a little bit more information about phishing and spear phishing and all of the other
and
ways
smishing and phishing
can get into our system. I'd like to mention again that if you have any additional questions, you can contact Tyler directly or contact our office at 605-224-5050. And just a reminder, we'll have this information or this webinar recording up on our website at www.sdra.org in the next couple days. And I want to thank everybody for your participation today in this webinar. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.